what would you say as far as our culture? Would you say we respect credit?
No, absolutely not.
And elaborate why.
Absolutely not, because they don't. Our culture doesn't understand the power of what credit can do for you if you use it smartly and responsibly.
Yes.
You know, the world is your oyster. You know, there's no better feeling in the world that if I want to do something or get something and I'm being responsible about it, I can get it.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And if you understand how to use credit, it can make your life so much easier on doing investments.
Welcome to the Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast, starring Q the Boss.
Yo. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. They call me Q the Boss. Listen, we rubbing our hands today. I'm excited, man. I got my brother in the building, man. Y'all gonna learn some lessons. I got my boy Ace in the building.
What up, bro? What's good, though? How you doing?
We got bomb to that, bro. That ain't no getting no regular interview. You know what I'm saying?
Let's go. How you doing, bro?
Listen, today we got something special for y'all. Everyone understand. But you don't need credit is what we saying, right?
Nah, we don't need credit, bro.
We don't need credit, right?
We don't need credit, bro.
You don't need credit.
Don't need credit.
So I got to start off first of all. Let me let you formally introduce yourself and give them a backstory to who you are.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Ace, better known as Ace1Credit _ I could change your life. Pretty much, I'm just a credit repair expert, life changer, and this is what I do.
So I got to ask this question because the average person is going to want to know, what makes you an expert?
First of all, what makes me an expert is my experience. How I learned to do credit is happened to me back in 2010. So, okay, so 2010, April 6th, the day before my birthday, 2010, was the best day of my life.
Okay.
And how it became the best day of my life was my house foreclosed.
Wow.
That's my property.
Wow.
All right, with children, wife, etc.
Okay.
So, but I had to let it go. I had to let it go. Not only let that go, I had to let go of a tow truck that I had, which went into repossession, a vehicle that I had, which went into repossession, tons of lines of credit and credit cards. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of monies that I had to let go because I kept on trying to hold on because I was getting emotional to my home, emotional to my car, emotional to my credit.
Yes.
So, but I got to a point where I couldn't look left, I couldn't look right, back, forth, north, south, east, west. I had to make a move and I had to let everything go. And as I said again, the day before my birthday, April 6, 2010, they foreclosed on my property. A few weeks later, they foreclosed on the tow truck. Credit took the bed, and I was what a lot of my clients were, in a bad predicament when it came to credit.
I know around that 08, 09 time, 10 time, a lot of people went underwater. Real estate market took a major swing. A lot of people took it I come from a foreclosure situation. What made me learn real estate is my mother foreclosed on her house.
Got you.
She had an adjustable rate.
Got you.
I didn't know what it was.
Got you.
I didn't understand it.
Got
so, we took the same hit. And the sad part is we lost so much money trying to save something that was already done.
That was already done.
It was done.
And what a lot of individuals I try to explain to all the time when they speak to these, the creditors.
Yes.
And they're speaking to, respectfully, customer service rep who knows absolutely nothing about credit, how it works. They're just talking about the finance as far as what they're going to ultimately owe. So when I fast forward to today, when I'm doing consultations, having talks to my potential clients or clients about credit, is to always separate the two from your credit and your debt.
Yes.
Although they intertwine with each other, it's literally two separate conversations.
Wow. What I got to ask though is, what I've seen a lot on social media, and a lot of times you see people say, I'll just open up an LLC. I know where I'm going with this.
Got you.
I'll open up an LLC, I'll spiffy up my credit, meaning throw some trade lines on it.
Onto where? Onto
your business line of credit.
Business line, okay.
We know that the personal guarantee itself, right?
Got you.
But a lot of times I want you to talk about how a lot of these people think that hearing these quote unquote creditors or these credit people tell you nowadays they use them as guru. I like the fact that he said expert and not guru.
Yes.
Right? But imagine, I want you to talk about how when they tell these people, open up an LLC, I can get you trade lines and credit limits like $250,000, $300,000. Do you see that a lot?
No. First off, what ends up happening, individuals who are doing so, if they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Okay, they're doing it because they're trying to escape their real life and believe and think that they're going to just stand on their business credit and live off of that, which is not going to necessarily be sustainable with that. And most of the time what individuals don't know or realize is when you're opening up a brand new LLC, S Corp, C Corp or so, okay, 99% of these creditors out there are going to require you to be a personal guarantor.
100%.
Okay, so if you don't, so let's go back a little bit. So this is the way I look at it. Your LLC is like your child.
Yes.
Okay? Your LLC did not ask to be here.
Yes.
Just like your child.
Yes.
Okay? So imagine your child, you take your child and you bring him to the middle of Manhattan.
Yes.
And you drop him or her.
Okay,
sorry,
okay.
Him or her. And say, okay, you're on your own.
Okay.
Now don't forget, your child has no credit.
Yes.
Has no income.
Yes.
Has no tax returns.
Okay.
Just all they have is just a name.
Yes.
Okay? How successful do you expect that child to be?
Not really highly successful.
Okay, so now let's talk about the LLC.
Okay.
Same scenario. Brand new, newborn, limited age, has no credit, has no tax returns, has no sort of income at all whatsoever. What's the likelihood of your LLC getting these fundings?
Yes.
Right?
Slim to none.
Slim to none.
Yes.
So now we backtrack again. Your child has you. You have the credit. You have the income. Your child has the backing of you to support them.
Yes.
The same thing as your business has the backing of you to support them with your credit, with your income, your tax return, whatever it may be. What percent of a chance does your business stand to potentially be successful?
Not much.
Higher of a chance.
If you do it that way,
if you do
way
that.
higher. Way higher.
So that's where the misconception come where, okay, just open up an LLC and I'm just gonna live off of business credit. I'm gonna get a whole bunch of net 30 accounts, net 60 accounts, trade lines such as Quill, Granger.
Yes.
You know, they bring up all these names.
Yes.
But again, 99% of these creditors are not looking for vendor accounts. Okay? That's what you're getting is a vendor account.
Yes.
All right? They're not looking for that. They're looking for credit, car loan, mortgage, credit card, something that you showed some sort of stability that you can afford to make a payment, or lack of a better word, credit worthy.
Wow, wow.
Sorry, I could go on and on and on.
Now we gonna get into it because you know I want and I love that you're going into depth with it so people can really understand exactly the statement, but you don't need credit, right?
Yeah, you don't need credit.
You don't need credit.
Definitely don't need no credit. And credit.
Yeah. So I gotta go further in saying, like, I'll give you a quick scenario. I saw this young man, he opened up he went to one of these guys, gurus. They made him open up some credit cards.
Got you.
Open up the LLC, of course, first. And he thought that his business was only attached to the business and he wasn't a personal guarantor for it.
Okay.
And I try to tell him, like, nah, brother, you don't have enough seasoning on that steak for it to taste great.
Exactly.
You know, there's nothing. You just going into them, they're going to make you the guarantor, so your credit is on the line.
The credit is on the line.
You know, I told him that. He didn't want to listen. He said, all I'm going to do is they end up getting this kid, he had to be about like 26. They got him like $300,000, bro.
Don't know what to do with it.
Nothing, bro.
Yeah, don't know what to do with it.
And then when I said to him, I said, the one thing about the credit, it's one thing to borrow, but it's also about how much you got to give back to borrow.
Yep.
And that's, I think, what a conversation that a lot of people don't have. What would you see is a fair exchange rate for somebody with semi or decent credit to as far as percentage?
Percentage-wise, definitely I'm going to say above 15%.
Okay.
Okay, 15%, which of course the minimum payment that you're going to end up making is going to be considerably higher.
Okay.
And if you were in a stronger position as far as with your credit, typically 680 or above.
Yes.
Typically. So of course, the higher your credit, the more credit worthy you are.
Yes.
They're more likely to give you a higher credit limit.
Yes.
As well as a reasonable to a fair to a great interest rate.
You know something funny? And Kizzy, I want you to hear this. Me and you could live next door to each other, have the same exact size lot, same exact size house, bought the house the same exact day, but don't mean me and you picking the same exact payments.
Hey, bro, I remember back in a couple of years ago, I bought my wife a brand new vehicle.
Okay.
Okay? a Honda Accord at the time. And when I bought her the vehicle, literally, we had a young lady that was sitting next to us, or the next corridor next to us, that was buying the exact same car.
Same make, same model?
Spec, everything.
Okay. And
the difference of payments were hundreds.
Wow.
And while she, like with me, when it comes to vehicles, I don't believe in putting no money down on no vehicle.
I feel the same way.
All right? I don't believe in putting any money down.
Yeah.
And this is her having to put a couple of $1,000s down. Putting a couple of $1,000s down, and she had a higher payment than I had with just a sign and drive.
Because her credit was shot.
More than likely her credit was shot. Her credit was shot, or vultures got someone that didn't know any better on how you could get around certain things or so. And here she is with high payments.
If you were, let's say hypothetically, a teacher, and you would say, like, I say all the people that you have that come to you to repair credit or to do anything with their credit, what would you say their knowledge is, as far as if you had to give a grade, 100% being the highest, 1% being the lowest? What would you say the percentage of people that actually know
about the credit?
credit?
I'm going to say 30%.
Wow. So you're talking about 70% don't?
Yeah, I'll say 30%. A lot of on the other side of the 70%, the 70% does a lot of assumptions, all right, without knowing facts. Okay, they make a lot of assumptions on how it works to obtain credit, how it works to keep your credit on point, or so, without knowing what they're speaking of. And they typically will get this information, where you can get a lot of information from YouTube, Google, or so, which is fine, but there's still a lot of backdooring information that's there for you. Because what individuals need to understand when it comes to credit and or credit repairing, it's meant for the individual to do it.
Of course.
Okay, but most people aren't willing to take the time to understand it and educate yourself on how credit work, and then use tactful techniques to get results that you're looking for with either building or repairing a report.
Okay.
So instead of taking the time, they make a lot of assumptions and make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes make things worse for themselves than what was meant to be in the first place.
I got to ask this question. What are some remarks on a credit that absolutely cannot be removed?
You're asking me some remarks?
Give me some remarks.
There's no remarks. Any remark can be removed on a person's report.
Okay.
Or has a potential of being removed on a person's report. So the same way it got there could be the same way you can either get it removed if everything goes according to plan, or at least have it updated to where it could be positive, where you can't get it removed. Or worst case scenario, sometimes no matter what you do, it just won't come off.
Such as, what would usually be a situation like that?
All right, so I'll give you an example. So typically, public records are very difficult to remove.
Okay.
All right, so if anyone understanding the credit world, what is a public record, that would be a bankruptcy, foreclosures, judgments, child support, repossession.
Student loans?
Student loans aren't, and we'll talk about the student loans.
Okay.
Student loans are not public records.
Okay.
I'm speaking about what is considered to be a public record.
Okay.
So again, bankruptcies, foreclosures, judgments, repos, child support, these are things that go through the system of the courts. So that becomes a public record.
Yes.
That's how if you go into a public record location, I can find out if Q ever had any sort of judgments against himself.
Yes.
Has he ever been bankrupt?
Yes.
That's where you get the information from. So because of the nature of what those are, when they report on a credit report, they are typically the hardest to remove.
Makes sense.
Okay? But it doesn't mean it can't be removed.
Yes.
So if any one of you guys go onto my Instagram, ace1credit_, I can change your life, and see and look through my histories of what I post, you would see that I've removed student loans, bankruptcies, foreclosures, judgments, child support. I've been successful in doing that. But of course, I'm not human. I mean, I'm not human. Take it back.
I get what you're saying.
I'm human.
Of course.
So I can't hit home runs every time I go up to bat.
So let's say I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation. You have a young man, let's say hypothetically owes $40,000 in child support, right? It's on his credit report. It's actually killing his report to the point where he's in the, say, fives, right? Can you get it off even if he's in delinquency?
Yeah, it doesn't matter the debt.
But it will come back on?
No. If it's done properly, it should not come back on. So what ends up happening when a person gets something deleted off their credit report and then it gets put back on, what initially happened was, it's called a soft deletion.
Yes.
All right. So
Yes.
so that means the credit bureaus, they're deleting it for now while they continue on with their investigation of whatever
What it
they're
is.
investigating or
Yes,
so.
yes.
And if it's come back founded that the account is verified, validated to you, then they insert it back on. Okay? When I go about doing, I'm not looking for you to validate. I'm not looking for you to validate. I'm not looking for you to verify. I'm not looking for you any of that. I'm disassociating that said account or accounts or public record from that person's report where you have no choice but to delete it if it goes according to plan.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
But then remember, if you have a public record, typically most public records report to the major credit bureaus.
Yes.
Okay? Experian, Equifax, TransUnion.
Of course.
Although we have 4 more other credit bureaus
Yes.
as well. But we could always touch on that if you ever decide to on it. Or so.
Which one do you think is the most important one?
They're all important in their own way.
Okay.
But typically, of course, the main one that's important would be Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. All right, but we also have what is called third-party credit bureaus, which
Of course.
which would be Innovis, SageStream, CoreLogic, ARS.
ARS.
Also, these are what are called third-party credit bureaus. Or so. So again, if you remember about 7 or 8 minutes ago in the early parts of the conversation, where I was saying that what most individuals are doing, they make assumptions instead of knowing the facts
100%.
on how you deal with credit and credit reports. But when you start educating yourself, you know tactful ways that you can go about beating the system, which is legal, which is not going to get you in trouble, which is not going to do anything more than help you with your credit, not your debt.
I see what you're
your
saying.
Credit.
So you're basically just disassociating yourself from it.
That's the main objective, is disassociation when it comes to it. When it comes to, we're talking about the aspects of credit and credit repairing.
So I want to ask this because I know some people are going to want to know this. Let's say hypothetically you said Equifax, you said TransUnion, and there was one more. You said, what's the other one? Experian, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not a credit guy. I understand credit, but I'm not a credit guy.
Got you.
Right? So these 3 entities, right? Why could someone have a 650 on one, a 675 on one, and a 7 on one? Why would something be like that?
Because each bureau is going to have different information. So, for instance, you can have a collections that reports to Experian,
Yes.
which drops your credit score down to, let's say, a 620.
Okay.
But TransUnion and Equifax doesn't have that same collection report on their credit report, and the score shows 700.
Wow.
Okay. So each bureau is their own entity. All right. The same thing is the same way when you're making disputes. I have it all the time, bro. You see it. I've had it where I work on a person's report and I get busy and I kill Experian and I kill TransUnion, but then Equifax is giving me a problem. But of course the client is going to state, Ace, I don't get it. So why isn't Equifax reflecting the same as the other 2 bureaurs? Because it's their own entity.
So it's like going to court in 3 different states.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Exactly. See,
That makes
even
sense.
though they all have quote unquote criterias that they must follow, but some can be more stringent in that criteria.
Yeah.
And when you're making these disputes on the report or so. So that's the reason why sometimes it could very well be where you can have great success in one bureau while you struggle on the other, or have great success across the board, or no success across the board as well.
So you said the word success. What would you say is the lowest credit you've ever seen and you've changed it?
Oh man, I'm gonna say it's about 2 months ago.
Okay.
It's about 2 months ago. If again, go through my page and you would see it. I was able to remove, the person had 140 negativities between the 3 bureaus.
Ooh.
Okay, between the 3 bureaus.
140.
140. So think about it. Let's say you have an American Express account. American
Yes.
Express typically reports to all 3 credit bureaus.
Of course.
So that means I have to dispute that said Experian American Express account 3 separate times. So that's considered to be 3.
Yes.
So let's say you had 10 accounts. That's to report to all 3 credit bureaus. That's considered to be 30 items.
Yes.
Because it's 3 separate times I have to dispute these items. But if you go on there, you would see I was able to remove the person's report and got 139 of them off of the 140 that he had.
Wow.
And I also had something recently, I think the highest I've seen was 180-point jump.
Wow.
From wherever the person was at to where it is. So I'm big on transparency on my social media.
100%.
To show what I do. I show, thankfully, my average of winning compared to my losses that I struggle with. And I also show the struggles accounts or bureaus or people's reports that I may struggle with as well.
You guys know we don't bring nobody up here that's fake. Just so y'all know that. we bring the legit receipts, and we definitely big on elevating the culture and helping the communities with information they may not be privy to.
Got you.
Right? So I want to ask another question. How valid would you say is Credit Karma? Let's say Credit Karma showing Kenzie's score of 805.
You always got to take their scoring with a grain of salt or drinking a bottle of vinegar, scoring-wise.
Okay.
Okay? The information that's on the report is legit. So I would use Credit Karma because when I'm working on reports, I piggyback off of other platforms like Credit Karma, like the Experian Free Report, Wise Piggy.
So like a baseline.
Yeah, so I would go to them. No, I only will go to them for the information to see that if I'm confirming something got deleted off of the person's report, I have different platforms that I will go onto to verify that.
Nice.
So on top of that, if I'm doing it properly, and which is called backdooring a person's report. So if it's done properly on a person's report and done properly separately on Equifax, separately on Experian, separately on TransUnion, I can access a person's report live at the moment, at the second, if you understand it properly and see what's going on with the person's report live. So I can see a deletion.
Yes.
But then you look at your report and say, I don't see it yet. Then I say, okay, Q, update the report. So now you're doing a new report, update the report, or I update the report to get a new live report. It would show you the new deletion that came off the report and the new scores that was calculated to.
So being that we know we transparency, you know, on the backstory, when you were going through your foreclosure, like how was it the comeback to getting to where you are today? How was that?
The comeback, okay, I never thought that I would be able to come back from it. That was the wild thing about it. I didn't expect that I was going to come back from it. But to show how everything I was able to do back then,
yeah,
I did it off of credit, but I didn't respect credit and understand the power of having good, strong credit. So again, back in 2004, 2005, the homes that I had purchased, I didn't put no money down. I sign and drive or sign and walk away.
Wow.
Okay, so people knows back then they had the loans, the 80-20.
The Wild West.
The Wild West. So I literally was bought homes with just signing and driving, not a penny out of my pocket. All right, and then I went and rented it out, trying to be a landlord. The same thing with my twin. If anyone knows my twin, at my best 197. We were both doing it together at the same time.
Yes.
All right, but then fast forwarding around 2008-ish, 9ish, that's when things started getting bad. Okay, interest rates started going up. I had a flatbed tow truck business selling scrap metal. That was really bad. And I had lines of credits that I was using to suffice my living situation, pay for the tow truck that I had going on, support the employees that I had going on that was working for me, until it got to a fold where I'm like, listen, I gotta make a move. Well, my famous word I love using is pivot. I had to pivot. Okay? And I'm like, I'm getting devoured. Yeah. So when I do my courses, I do courses on credit and credit repair. So I tell people when I'm talking, what I want you to do is close your eyes and get in my head the way I think. Okay?
Okay.
I'm unorthodox on how I think with my approach when I'm dealing with a person's credit and with my life.
Okay.
I'm very unorthodox, how I pay my bills.
Yeah.
I don't do it like the typical person would be.
Yeah.
But again, I was saying I was being devoured. So think of nature. You watch nature?
Of course.
So I love nature. I'm a nature guy. I love watching, animals getting devoured and chewed up or whatever. So,
Shark Week.
Right? Have you ever watched a gazelle get caught by a lion?
I've seen it before, but rarely.
Okay, but now, have we ever seen the animal is getting chewed up and eat up alive, and it's literally just sitting there while it's getting eaten up?
It's trying to run.
It's not even making it run, it's just there. Because of what? Because of fear.
Yeah.
Scared, he's frozen or so, right? So, no different than, again, when you see, let's say, a bunch of zebras going across a river.
And alligators and the crocodiles.
There's alligators in there. And you watching the TV like, hold on, I don't understand.
Why are they doing it?
What are they doing that for? But then they got a couple of smarter zebras that went down yonder where there's limited to no alligators and they're already on the other side eating grass. I was the gazelle. I was the dummy following the crowd. Doing the traditional things of what we think is the right thing to do.
100%.
So until I got beat up, and I couldn't look left, I couldn't look right, up, north, south, east, west, or so, and everything crumbled in front of me. Okay, so when all that happened, now this is when I started understanding, my twin brother and I started understanding the power of credit.
Yeah.
So we went out there and said, okay, Welby and I, we always piggyback off of one another. Look, we're gonna find someone that can help us
100%.
with our credit. So if you told me, hey, Weldon, Ace, listen, I can fix your credit for you,
Yeah.
give me $5,000, I'm giving it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Give me $10,000, I'm giving you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I knew having good to strong to powerful, excellent credit, like an 850, like what I currently have, and I'm going to show it to you too. Also,
I believe it.
I knew that I had access to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars or so. So I was willing to pay it. But guess what ended up happening? People were telling me what I wanted to hear, what Welby wanted to hear or so, and they were robbing us, taking our money, telling us they got things done, telling us they got things got deleted. Oh, your credit is in the 700s or so. Sending you fake credit reports until you run your actual credit report, or you go and try to use your credit and these things are still there, and then they tell you that it came back.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times.
So I took the bull by the horn and I said, I'm gonna learn this myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at this. I went to college, I was an accountant.
Wow.
In college, you understand what I'm saying? So I was good at that. I was good with numbers. I was good with being tactful or so. So all this happened to me, again, April of 2010. August of that same year, I cleaned up all that as if it had never happened.
Wow. Same year.
Same year.
Wow.
As if I'm a testament of it.
And how, what would you say was the total damage
As far
amount, as far as money wise?
That I owed?
With the debt, everything. How?
Easily about 400.
Wow.
Easy about 400. Easy. Again, go to county records and see.
And I believe you.
You will see.
Wow.
Okay? And that's where I learned, if you remember, from the beginning of our conversation when I stated to individuals to remember to always separate your credit from your debt. Although they intertwine with each other, it's literally two separate conversations. Yeah. So just because you have a debt, whether it's paid for or not paid for, whether it's charged off, collections, public record or so, you can still have that debt, but credit-wise, it's not impacting you to stop you. Okay? So if you guys ever deal with anyone and they tell you that because they deleted something off of your credit profile that you no longer owe the debt, they're lying to you.
That's cap.
It's cap.
100% cap.
All right? So I have it.
You can negotiate with the creditor.
That's
right?
another convo.
Okay.
But I don't care. But on a respectful level, I don't care about that. So again, when I do my consultations, they want to give me a whole backstory, tell me what they owe, whether it's big, whether it's small, whatever. And I say to them respectfully, listen, I don't care about any of that. It's the same process for me. Whether you owe $1, whether you owe $1 million, it's going to be the same exact process.
That's the same thing I say as far as business. Whether it's a big business or a small business, you're going to have to put in work to build it.
No matter
what, you have to build it.
I've had files that I've worked on where you would think it's, man, I'm going to get in and out of there and I'm done. Make my money, make my bag on it, I'm in and out and I'm done. Yeah. And I'll struggle with it. Then I have a person's file that has repos, all these things going on. Like they just went through it.
Wow.
Went through it and I could get busy with it. Wow. So every situation is different. Every outcome is different. It's not a cookie cutter format for everybody.
End all be all.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all.
So my next question is, right, what would you see as far as your clients? What was the most debt you ever had somebody as far as in delinquency? Because I've seen people in a lot of debt. In most cases, people that have assets, we have debt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So someone that's very, let me make sure I say that statement right. Liability debt. What was the most you ever seen somebody in liability debt?
Definitely millions.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely millions.
Liability debt.
Yeah, and majority of them, again, don't know what to do with it. So like, let's say for myself, in lines of credit, I have pushing about $1 million of that, right? So right now, currently, I'm not actively making any moves. Like buying a home to flip, I'm not actively making any moves. Ask me what the debt is do I have on those accounts.
What is the debt?
It's probably 5% of it.
I like that. That's me.
Okay.
What is the maximum she use?
What's the what?
The most amount of credit that she use.
Me.
Percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, typically you're going to hit 35%. Me, I'm a little bit more stringent with it. I'm gonna say 20%.
It sound like me. I'm like 20, 25.
Yeah. So, but but it's gonna be the amount of the overall average of what you have going on your report. But you can have one account that you can max out on, even though your overall usage is low, and that one account could tank you. It could tank you, and then not only that one account can tank you, it could set up alerts to the creditors that you have that has access to your report that does soft inquiries on your credit that doesn't show up on your credit report or so, to see where you stand. And when they start seeing that you're potentially being high risk, although your payments are on time, no negativities, anything, they can start taking from you because they don't want to be part of potentially losing their money.
I got another question for you. I have one guy that and I told him you were coming on today, and he told me to ask you this question.
Gotcha.
He said he had a credit limit of 100,000, and they literally cut his credit limit by 75%, and he's never been in delinquency, never in default, never had an issue. Why would you say that is?
It could be several things. It could be usage if you're not using it.
Yeah.
It could be that. It could be whatever reason it may be. It's theirs. It's their money. They pushing it towards you for limits that you have, but it's still their money. It's still their right to lower it if they choose to do so.
I told him, in my opinion, I said, maybe you didn't verify the income that you told him what you had.
It could have been, yes. It's many variables. It could be exactly that, depending on how long you've had it for. American Express is big with that.
Yes.
Or they're doing an audit, and you needed to exactly what you just stated.
Yes.
It could be, again, usage.
Is that illegal to lie about income that you don't have?
Absolutely.
And lie to I want you to emphasize on that, because I do see a lot of people when they sign up for these creditors, and I tell them all the time, I knew what you was going to say already, because I knew the answer to it, but I see a lot of people, they'll embellish
Yes.
their actual income and state like they say they make $500,000, meanwhile they make 50,000.
Yes.
And is that why? What makes that illegal?
It makes it illegal because you state in facts that's not true. You're not making that type of income for you to get the approval that you're asking for.
Yes.
Or so,
But you found
but
that's worth millions of dollars.
it's sometimes it's them towing the line.
I said, bro, you're gonna
so,
take a lot
for
of
instance, I
losses.
could be living with you,
Yes.
and I'm making $20,000 a year, but then you're making $180,000 a year. But if you read majority of the pamphlets for you signing up, it's asking for household income. So if the total household income is $200,000, you're not lying. You're not lying.
Yeah.
You're not lying. So it's how you go about doing it, or so, for it to not be considered as credit fraud.
Yeah. Speaking of fraud and everything, during COVID, I seen a lot of people do these PPP loans, PPP SBAs. Did you see a lot of people get in predicaments that was a little crazy because of those situations?
Absolutely, because ultimately they looked at it as if it was free money. Okay, with the PPP loans, these lines of credit,
Yes.
People borrowing against their home, they look at it like it's free money when it's not.
Yes.
So it's like, regardless of what income, let's say for myself, I may bring in, if I needed or wanted liquidity, $1 million, all I have to do is go to my line of credit and instantaneously transfer it over. Line
100%.
of credits, instantly to change them over and right in my bank account, and liquid-wise, I have $1 million to play with.
What will be the interest on that?
It depends. Like me, I have a low interest rate, again, based on my high credit. So for those type of lines of credit, they're definitely less than 7%. Definitely less, if not less than that. But I've had them a couple of years, and year by year, they slowly creep up, like 0.5% or so. So it's definitely not what I had originally. But the average person who has or doesn't have that type of credit or so, again, for the same debt, we're talking two different numbers.
So one thing I always tell, especially people that look like us, right? I always tell them, if you're not in a position of being able to barter, you're not in a position of being able to leverage your life.
Yep.
And that's what creditors, they allow you to barter against future earnings, against the potential of the money that you could potentially make off borrowing the money. And if you play with them, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot.
Yep.
So I have to ask this question. What would you say, as far as our culture, would you say we respect credit?
No, absolutely not.
And elaborate why.
Absolutely not, because they don't. Our culture doesn't understand the power of what credit can do for you, if you use it smartly
Yes.
and responsibly.
Yes.
You know, it's the world is your oyster. You know, there's no better feeling in the world that if I want to do something or get something and I'm being responsible about it, I can get it.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And if you understand how to use credit, it can make your life so much easier on doing investments.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Like when I did an investment with my twin brother, about a year or two ago when we did an investment together, certain work that we did, we were doing on the project, my responsibility was to take care of the contractors. So the contractors' work was about 60 grand.
Yes.
Okay? So I used other people's money from my lines of credit instead of going into my own pocket to take the 60,000 to pay for my contractors.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So between the payment, the first payment that had to be made and the time frame that we had the contractors to do the work, what I borrowed or I had 60,000 that I used, but it cost me only $600.
Sound like me.
You understand? And I got recouped my money plus whatever my profit was. And to make that move, because I was using my credit or my credit lines smartly, I used 60, but cost me 600. So I made. So
I know exactly how you do that.
$600 to make a couple of thousand or about 20,000.
Yes.
On it.
Yes.
For 600.
It's funny because, I flip also. And the funny thing about flipping is a lot of the times, especially if you're doing hard money, you get something called a scope.
Yep.
And then you get paid in stages.
In stages, yep.
So what I usually do is I use my Amex.
Yep.
And I max out on my Amex. And then I just let the drawer come in.
The one drawer.
And pay it off.
Yep.
And then I do it again.
Yep.
And and the best part about it is I'm receiving the benefits of the utilization of the money the same way someone else it is.
Yep.
Like I've taken vacations
Yep.
on flipping houses with the credit that I was able to get. Okay, let me break it down fast. Because somebody probably, what is he talking about?
Understand, yep.
All right, real fast. So let's say hypothetically I acquire a house. When you buy a house that is considerably distressed, it needs work. So what I would do is I would use my credit card to fix and buy the material as need be, right? Mm-hmm. And I would also pay my contractor on the card also. Because he'll charge me via swipe, right? So now I would charge on the credit card. Let's say I'll run up one week would be, let's say hypothetically, $3,000 in labor, another $7,000 in material. Let's just say hypothetically $10,000 a week, right? Let's just say I'm just charging it on my card. And then after the work is viewed to be complete, the hard money lender reissues my money back via wire. And then I literally just via wire to the credit card and I pay off the balance of the credit card and I rinse, recycle, repeat. Yep. And these are things that I've learned, that the power of being able to barter someone else's resources. And I'm also getting the credit and the points for using, by let's say completion, I've did 80 grand. Mm-hmm. You're talking about $80,000 that I've been accredited for because of the card.
Because I use my card. I have Amexes in any card you think of I have.
Yes.
But predominantly I use my business Amex and I use my personal Amex. But I use them as debit cards. Okay? So if anyone knows and understands how credit cards...
Hold on. You got it bombed that. Say it again. They don't know. I want you to go in.
Okay, so now all credit card companies have cutoff times where you make a payment.
Yes.
All right? So, and I'm talking about day by day.
Yes.
I'm not talking about... Because again, I'm unorthodox. I don't wait for due dates. I don't do any of that. The way I use my credit cards is as soon as I use it, I immediately go into my phone and I pay it.
Sound like
immediately.
Me. Yes.
Immediately. So
that's how you fall behind.
Yes. So in essence, I'm using it like a debit card, because if you're using your actual debit card, it's gonna come out of your account immediately, right? But when you make your payment and you catch it by the cutoff date, if you know your account, Amex is basically $11.59 the night before.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You make payment the very next day, it's out of my account.
Yes.
So I used it, again, in essence, like it's a debit card. I only use my debit card predominantly for cash, to get money out.
Sound like me.
So. But that's one of my ways of being responsible. But when you look through it for the month, you can easily ran up, if depending on your expenses, thousands.
Yes.
Thousands upon thousands of dollars,
Yes.
which you're not thinking you're doing. But if a person is realistic with their lives, and what they have going on, your transactions are in the thousands.
And I think that's issue within itself that a lot of people don't see, that they're basically leaving money on the table.
Leaving money on the table, yeah.
You know, and I see that all the time. Like even me, I pay all my bills via credit card.
Yep.
And I pay it off as I use it.
And I do that for what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
I do that for what you're saying. But one of the biggest reasons I do that is for the protection factor of it.
So you can pull it back.
I'm not worried about not anybody hacking me or my money being tied up while I'm going through a hacking system or anything like that. So predominantly, I do it for the points is going to come. The credit is going to come.
Of course.
No matter what. Yeah. Because with credit cards, if you look at your credit profile. If you had a credit card that you haven't used in, let's say, a year, if you go to your credit report page to that particular account, every month you're going to see it say, like, okay, or check mark, basically saying each month is good.
Yes.
So people need to stop believing the nonsense of that you have to have debt out in order for your credit to get built up. You could get your credit card and never use it at all.
But you just swipe it and pay.
No, never use it at all.
Yes.
And you're gonna build credit with it no matter what.
Elaborate how? Because
with credit cards, again, if you go, I'm telling anyone, go into your credit report and look at any sort of credit cards that you might have that you haven't used for a couple of months.
Okay.
Or even for a minute, a year or so. And the account is not delinquent, no balance or anything, because that means you're not required to have any payments. If you look at the history, it's going to show
100%.
100% check mark, X, not X, X is deletion. A check mark or okay is going to show each month. Yeah. So when you hear where a person will go to a bozo, and I call a bozo.
A bozo.
Yeah, respectfully, a lawyer. A lawyer don't know credit. So if you go to a lawyer because you're going through financial hardship, 9 times out of 10, what the lawyer is going to tell you to do is to file bankruptcy.
Yep.
He doesn't know. He's not a credit repair person.
100%.
Okay? Or so again, if you go to a bozo, a lawyer, one of your boys at the corner, or so telling you information, and it say, oh no, get your card and put some money on it, and no, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
All right? If you're not going to be responsible enough to handle the debt that you're about to start incurring onto yourself, you don't have to do that.
It's crazy because, like, when you talk about this credit thing, I look at how substantially it can change someone's life, and then I also see how substantially it can hinder someone's life.
Yeah.
And I see, like, if you look at even like via social media, I know your platform very well. So if I look at your platform, I'm noticing, like, and I know you personally, I know you're giving out gems, jewels, and logic. But then I look at other people, they try to teach them tricks of the trade that hinders them long term.
Yeah, they're selling a lifestyle.
Yes.
They're selling a lifestyle that's in the real world, it's not reality.
It's not reality.
It doesn't work like that. And it's comical to me. But a person that's mostly in my industry that does what I do also, and I tell anyone, if you're dealing with anyone that does credit, and they're making you promises and or guarantees, run the other way.
They're lying.
Yeah, they're lying because you can't guarantee that. I've had husbands and wives. So a lot of husband and wives credit reports mirror each other. Why? Because they do everything together. Okay?
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I don't recommend that. Okay? Because if one go down, the whole ship goes down.
100%.
Okay? I don't recommend that.
Smart.
Okay? But a lot of the times, and I keep saying respectfully, but I'm saying respectfully, it's the woman would think that, that the husband is trying to have a different life outside of her, but why can't we do everything together?
Yes.
So, no, I'm saying that for protection-wise. If God forbid, my credit goes to, plummet, I have an option.
Yeah, you have your wife.
Or vice versa.
Yes.
But then at the same time, we're both sustainable on our own.
100%.
All right, but
just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Yes.
But to elaborate, together, I've had husbands and wives where the credit report mirrors each other.
Yeah.
I do the husbands and I do the wife, and 2 separate outcomes.
Wow.
The husband will be, if not, whatever, the highest credit score I could get him in, let's say 690 from like a 520 or so, whatever so, and then the wife is still struggling in the 5s. And what do you think I'm being asked? What's wrong with my credit? But you did it for my husband. Yes, I get it. But every situation is different. Outcomes are different. The tactic that I worked on with your husband, it may not work with you. I have to try another tactic for me to ultimately, hopefully, get you to where you want to be, or as close as possible.
Who would you say? And I'm no shade, no shots, just based on experience. Who do you see usually carry the most unnecessary debt, men or women? From your experience.
I'm gonna say women, more so because more women come to me than men.
Okay.
More so because of their pride. All right. So I have to say based on the amount
From what you see.
from who comes to me. So more so, but more so women, they want to get out of their situation, and then they're trying to figure angles on how they could go about doing so, and and they want to they just want to make a change to it.
I do agree. I think a lot of men view the credit situation and getting help about the credit situation. We focus on it as much as we focus on going to the doctor and getting checkups.
Yeah, exactly.
They do it when it's like it's absolutely to the point where you ain't got no choice.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people are evasive of it.
And the worst part of it is when your back is to the wall is when you're ready to try to make some moves.
That's crazy.
And it's, bro, but I always say it over and over again, divine intervention, if that's the right wording that I'm using, I do not understand why. The clients who I typically struggle with are the ones who have a time frame.
Wow.
I'm about to get back my car in another week. I need to fix my credit. I'll shy away from that. Okay? Or a person, you about to be evicted, you need another apartment, or whatever it may be, is when they have a time frame when something needs to be done.
You don't want them.
9 times out of 10, I won't take them unless they really insist in it. Majority of my clients I get is through recommendations.
Oh.
Okay, even though I do well with the social media, but majority is friends of friends, family of family. That is how
It's some kind of intertwining.
somehow, some way, or so.
That's called the funnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm able to be transparent with whomever I'm speaking with in regards to that. But for the most part, a lot of the times it's a pride thing to it.
I agree, because when I talk to a lot of men, they don't really know, or they just act like it's okay, and they ignore it like, yo, that 505 gonna stay at that 5 or down.
Yeah, and then they don't realize I don't give a crap unless you just have where you have insurmountable amount of money. Money is just not an object or whatsoever.
Then it is what it is.
Then it is what it is. But if you an average person, and the average person could be making $2-3 million a year.
100%.
People need to get that right.
100%.
Okay, people be thinking that because you make $1 million, I make 400,000. That your life, we're like right there.
It's
you
the
got
same thing.
somewhat differences, but
Rich is rich.
Rich is rich. You're still doing.
It's all relative.
It's all relative at the end. But their mentality would be because I'm getting money. Cool. You're making money when it's time to make that move. When I'm talking about the move that matters.
Yes.
Cars, houses, or homes, something along the line. Trying to help your child with student loans, which I don't recommend.
I told you I don't do it. I will not do it.
I tell my children this all the time. I got a daughter next year. I told you we're not doing those student loans. We're not playing that. But
I've seen kids burn their mothers, burn their fathers, burn it.
I'm not doing it. And how I look at it, if I know better, I should do better. So why would I let them argue, let them say you're trying to stop them from, living their life, whatever you want to call it. It's fine. Yeah. In the long run, you're going to be happy that, no, we did it where we had either none, which is typically what's going to happen, or limited of debt when it comes to your student loans.
It's scary because, like, for me, when you bartering money, right, and based on the interest rate, I don't believe that I would allow my child to put me in a situation that could hinder me from growing furtherance, right? And knowing that a lot of these young people, I read a report the other day that said the average millennial walks around with over 20-something thousand just in credit card debt.
Yeah, I see it all the time.
It's crazy.
I see it all the time.
Wow.
And then it's like a lot of the debt that they have, they don't have nothing to show for it.
Foolishness.
They just have the debt. They just had the debt. Oh, what did you buy? Oh, I bought a
shirt.
A shirt that cost $350. Okay, cool. You got the shirt for $350. When the minimum payment comes up, which is $12, you only send them $12.
Wow.
But then they add another $200 the following month.
Crazy.
You know what I'm saying? Before you know it, like, oh my goodness, how in the world
Am I in a situation?
I'm in this situation? How did I get myself? And it balloons quickly.
Yes, it does.
Also. And you don't know where it came from. Next thing is you're $5,000 in the hole.
But you know the scariest thing, and I tell every one of my boys and everyone, simple logic, simple mathematics, right? High interest debt will eat you alive. It's like a cancer on your finance, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't resolve the issue, right, it's gonna continue to eat you away. Yeah. But long story short, I tell guys, like, how do you have a credit card and you don't automatic pay at least the minimum balance?
Yes. I had a client literally last month that had I said, put it on auto pay.
Auto pay.
So at least you know minimum, unless you have no money in your account, minimum it's paid.
Even if they're going to pull it because they're going to overdraft it. Yeah. I'd rather owe the bank.
I'd rather owe the bank.
And then I paid him the $26. Okay, I had a guy the other day, bro. He had a $26.
Yes.
Yo, bro, his payment was $26.
And it tanked it.
And he just kept leaving it. And then when I looked at his credit, he had a bunch, like you go into the credit card app, it had a bunch of late payments. Yeah. I was like, brother, what are you doing? 20-something dollars. Yep. I said, bro, that's 2 lattes at Starbucks, bro. Like, I'm not talking about you. I'm not dissing him financially. I'm dissing the negligence of him being mature enough to be practical and logical.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, come on, put your credit on where it takes it every single month, auto pay. And if you choose, you had a great month, you could always pay more.
You can always pay more.
Yeah.
Yep. But you have to be disciplined. If you're not disciplined with it, you'll find yourself in trouble in a heartbeat.
Listen, I got one. You know the scariest things, and I feel like, no disrespect to anybody that does this job, but I have to talk about it. I feel like car salesmen, they're like the devil.
They are the devils.
Car salesmen and car saleswomen.
They are the devil.
Let me make sure I establish this too.
Know your numbers.
And the reason why I say that is because I watch people go into the car dealer. It's predatory lending in a sense, where they'll make this person sign at an 18, 22%, right? And then the favorite line is?
I'll worry about it later.
I'll worry about it later. You could always refi it.
Which is a big crock.
Bro, I don't really see nobody refinancing cars like that.
Because it doesn't, if you know your numbers, it doesn't make sense.
It don't make sense.
To refi. It doesn't make sense. You just extended the loan, 1. 2, you end up paying more money.
Yes.
All right. And when you start to factor in the savings, people are doing that for $70.
Don't make sense.
So hold on, you just paid on this car, and the famous line for majority of these dealers is get into the car, come back 6 months later,
yes,
and then I'm gonna refinance you out.
Yes.
Now, number one, he's not refinancing you anything.
He can't do it.
He can't do anything.
No.
He's not even the middleman.
He sold the loan.
That's it. He can't do any of that.
Yes.
It's a matter of you being approved.
That's crazy.
That's what it is. And now you found yourself, you already extended the loan as far as you can. These people are doing, you're a fool if you do an 84-month loan, bro.
This piggyback on what you just said. The scariest part is after they get you in the car, and let's say hypothetically 2 years later you want another car.
Yes.
But let's say you owe. It's called cars also have something called negative equity also.
Yep, and amortization.
Yes.
Yep.
So then the person will go back to the dealer, owing almost 17, 20, 30,000 on his car, trade it in to get another car. All they do is put it on the back end of that payment.
And what you're not stating to them is because of the fact they have high interest rate. If anyone understands loans and amortization, how it works, the front end of the loan is the highest interest that's going to go towards the loan. So you're going to come back 6 months later on a $17,000 loan. Guess what you owe? $17,000 plus.
Yes, so you're 100% negative equity.
You're 100%. So now you just refinanced the car that you just bought for $17,000. Where in theory, in your mind, you're going to owe $15,000, but you still owe $17,000, and you just refinanced the same car for $17,000 6 months later with an interest rate of slightly less to pay $70 less.
$70.
$70, even if it was $100 less.
And you started with that 86-month payment over?
You started with the 86 month. These are the things, but these are what I called a couple minutes ago bozos.
Yes.
You understand? But I still blame the consumer because everyone
should know what they're doing
deep down in their heart. When you about to sign on a dotted line and you see those numbers, whether it's you're renting an apartment, whether you're buying a car, leasing a car, whatever it is, when you see those numbers, you know in your heart if you can or you can't afford it. A lot of people won't do it. They'll just say, all right, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, there was a girl I was dating a couple years back, and we were dating. We've come to the, like one thing I like to see and I tell every man and every woman, you have to see how responsible someone is, materialistically wise. I tell people, I don't mind if you want $1 million lifestyle if you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
I understand why. But if you know that you're in the building process of elevating and you're literally living a lifestyle that you currently cannot afford.
Can't afford, yeah.
You know, you're putting us in a bad situation. So for instance, I was talking to her, we started trying to intertwine our lives. Because initially, you tap the water to see if it's cold before you jump in the pool, right? So I'm tapping the water to make sure that this is a good investment for me. Because even friendships and everything else can be a liability, right? So I said, let me fill this out. Long story short, we come to the conclusion of what was the car payment that we're willing to accept. It was, let's say at the time, this was reasonable numbers, 5 something was a nice car. Right now, try again.
Forget it.
You know what I'm saying?
Forget it.
Right, this is years back. So she went to the dealership. She ended up coming out of the dealership with about a $900 car payment.
Yep.
I looked at her and she said, it would be better if you get rid of your car and we just both drive this nice luxury car.
No.
And I said, you made this financial decision based on my money, so you volunteered my resources without even having this discussion with me? She said, but when I got in it, he made me test drive it and told me that I could always go back and refi. And I said, you didn't think you should talk to me about that?
Yep.
But currently, she's still single. I'm just saying, if anybody looking for her, you can find her, you know, but I'm just saying. But again, as he said before, that is a scenario of how your mate can actually hurt you in the credit world of finance. So what would you say to people on the level of importance of knowing credit and understanding how to establish, maintain, and to deal with your creditors?
Ultimately, educate yourself. You know, you got to educate yourself. We have resources such as YouTube, Google.
You got to make sure you know who you're listening to.
You got to also know who you're listening to. And I say it all the time, you don't have to know everything, all right? But sometimes you have to put people around you that knows better than you, that could put you in certain positions that you're trying to be in,
100%.
that you don't have to go through the treachery of it if you have someone that's there available, whether you're paying them for it. Sometimes you got to pay to play.
100%.
Okay, or whether it's one of your good close friends, whatever that could be considered to be a mentor, whomever it is that could be forthcoming to you to put you on to game.
Yes.
Because if you don't understand the process of this and how it works, because I have it many times where I have a person who supposedly understands credit and credit repairing every 2 weeks. Hey, bro, what's going on? It's 20 days now. Bro,
they don't know credit.
You don't know credit, yo. You don't know how that works.
They know the terminology of sounding like they know what they're talking about.
That every time you make a dispute, you have to the credit bureau's got to get back to you in 30 days. It's not true.
So look, if you look at you ever watched those shows where people go buy the storage units?
Yeah.
So I had a homeboy, he saw the shows. But in order for the shows to keep viewers, they got to make the storyline sound dramatic. Right? It's a coincidence that they find the most luxurious items in the world.
They know the exact person to go to get it appraised.
Come on. Yeah. So long story short, one of my boys, he saw one of the shows, and he got into buying storage lockers. I told him that shows have to put items in these places, like especially if it's on the History Channel. Magically, it's an antique gun that you found that's worth millions of dollars. And I try to tell him this. And I said, bro, you're going to take a lot of losses before you take some wins. I'm not saying that you can't take no wins.
Out the door,
Yes. But I said, make sure you have discretionary income where you're not on pins and needles, or you're not at the end of your rope with the money month to month, knowing that you have this discretionary money that you could play with. So let's say hypothetically you got an extra $500 a month that you could take some risk on to, with the storage units. Now he was willing to roll the dice on his whole life.
Exactly.
My boy ended up losing about $60K. He was getting items that was just bare junk, more junk and junk. And he just became, I call him the junk king.
Because how often people are really just letting valuable things just go like that?
Especially people that really got the money. I told him you're going to get more junk than you're going to get good. You probably have, more than likely, is somebody that either A, moved and they had to put their stuff in a storage unit, right? So therefore now they running up their own hard times. So if anything got to go, it's going to be that unit first.
Exactly.
But he didn't want to listen and ended up losing $60,000.
I see it, but again, with TV, social media, they sell things to be very easy until you're in it.
Yep.
And then when you're in it, it's either too late or you just, pretty much damn near drowning, all based on because this person told you, oh, just get involved in this, you're gonna get a bag. And again, that was my mistake back in 2004, 2005. Thinking
We all were influenced at one point.
It's just that easy. Just do this, you're gonna make a whole ton of money. And I realized that's not the case.
I got into flipping, and I told my guys, my first flip, I lost $44,700.26. I lost $44,700.26. That number will be stuck in my head to the end of time. And the reason why, because I watched that show, Flippers, Property Brothers.
Yeah, the Property, yeah.
Oh my God. See, and I'm gonna keep it real with you. I think one of the main reasons why I lost in the beginning is because I didn't know the difference between gross and net. So they're telling you pretty much the total.
That's what they'll show.
Yeah, they're not showing what the actual is take home.
Yep.
So even let's say hypothetically, it's $100,000 total, but they're not showing you that after all the fees, everything, they walked away with 18%, which is $18,000.
$18,000, yeah.
They didn't tell me that aspect. After Uncle Sam is getting his hands in the pot too. You know what I'm saying?
I had a good friend of mine, because he called me about 2 days ago, because he's seen, I believe it was on your show, when my brother was on here, talking about how my brother put up $200,000 to get $500,000.
Yes.
Okay, hey, so your show, right? So he calls me up immediately, say, hey, Ace, listen, I need to talk to you. And he sent me the link. He's like, I need this right now. He said, put me on to your brother. I said, what are you talking about? So I looked at the clip real quick, whatever. I said, bro, do you understand this?
What that is?
Do you understand what comes with that or so? Yeah, let me talk about it. I said, call me. I already know the play.
Yeah.
So I already know what the play is.
Yes.
When I broke it down to him, he's like, bro, I didn't know that. And I said, but on face value,
It sounds
amazing. Like, hold on, how a person puts up this,
Yes.
and then he's walking with more than double than this. How it makes sense, make it make sense.
Yes.
And then I told him, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, bro.
Yes, because you play with fire.
You're playing with fire. You don't know what you're working with. Leave it be.
I tell you real fast, I had a guy, we were talking about social media and how currently it can establish a thought. A 15, 20, 30-second clip can make you think I said something. For instance, let's say hypothetically, I say you're ugly. You cut me off mid-sentence. Right? All I said was you ugly. That's what you think I said because you didn't hear the totality of the situation.
Exactly.
But I could have finished, if you would have heard the whole clip, you're ugly when you're upset.
When you're upset, yep.
Whole premise of the ugly statement makes better sense
Yep.
rather than being derogatory or disrespectful because of the fact that you heard the whole totality of the statement. And that's the same thing you hear when you see social media clips. I'm like, a 15-second clip shouldn't make you willing to go take a chance with your credit.
Yeah.
Because I told you about the...
I was one of them, bro.
But
yeah,
most of us, you heard the young boy, I told you when he got the 250,000?
Yeah.
He did the Airbnb in Florida.
Oh, okay.
And oh my God, bro.
Yeah.
He said, I'm gonna buy, look what he said. He said, I'm gonna take a down payment on my Air Max. I'm gonna pay for an Airbnb. And after I pay for the Airbnb, I'm gonna furnish the Airbnb via Air Max. So technically he was willing to run up his credit and he was gonna do it a multitude of times because he had $250,000. So he was willing to run up his credit, but what was supposed to pay back the credit was supposed to be the rentals.
Yep.
Right? And it never panned out the way he thought it was. Fell in delinquency with everything to the point where he had to literally fall on his behind. He had to let it go.
You gotta let it go.
And then the sad part is some investor came in and piggybacked and won off of his try. Because I always tell people you do have to have discretionary income. You can't just be playing with your credit. You do have to have some financial backings.
You have to have
earning
liquidity.
Yes.
Yep.
So now, what would you say is a rule in credit as far as you said 30%, 25 to 30% should be your max usage.
Me, like I said, I'm a little bit more aggressive. I say 20.
Yes.
But every situation is different. You toe the line. If you have a move that you're making, or if life happens. It is what it is. You do what you need to do.
Yes.
But I'm a little bit more stringent. I'll say 20% or less.
You know why I stay in those realms too? Like I'll try to do like 15, 20%. I don't want to go over 35. So let's say I'm at 15, but let's say I'm at 20%. I'll keep 15% of my credit for an absolute emergency. So even if I go through my emergency, I don't have to use my credit usage up. And credit is looking at you like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Yep.
You wait. Oh, hold on.
Yep.
You're using a lot of our money. What's going on here?
Yep.
It's like a red flag that something's wrong is going on.
Yep.
because they've seen it on so many different occasions, especially when you don't have that level of history with them. I could say if you had a very long history, they still don't care.
That don't matter. I've seen it. People had 20 years.
They still.
And still.
Wow.
Still, they whatever. And also learn the company you're with. All right? Like, for instance, I've been with Discover forever.
Yeah.
And Discover has it where once a year, every year, they give you a one-time reprieve. If, God forbid, a situation happens, you miss the payment, they'll reverse it.
Wow.
But you gotta know your company, okay? Amex don't do that.
Amex don't care.
Amex don't care.
Amex is not personal.
So yeah, it's not personal. So
business.
It's business. So you gotta know who you with, what their temperaments are, what they will not allow, because you could be with them forever. One mishap, it could be a dub instantaneously.
You know why I love MX though, and I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't get nothing for saying this, but the reason why I love MX is because you could always call them and get them to charge back.
Yes.
I love that I can charge back.
Yeah.
You know,
but that's when you go to a reputable
100%
company, not those
cheesy ones.
Cheesy ones. But
I'm scared if a company don't want to use MX.
Yeah,
If you don't want to touch my MX, I'm kind of nervous.
Yep.
You know, I'm nervous off the rip. I remember one time I went to a hotel, not to cut you off, I did, I apologize. I went to a hotel, I was in somewhere, let's say Atlanta. I got overcharged for some drinks. And I was like, I got a little tipsy, but not this tipsy.
Not this tipsy, yeah.
I was like, there's no way. This is a couple bottles in.
Yep.
You're talking about, let's say hypothetically I had 2 drinks and I'm saying about $40, $45. Yo, you're talking about $400.
Yeah.
I'm like, somebody scare me.
Yeah.
Man, within 1, 2, 3, Mr. Brown, no problem, done.
And what people don't realize, the power of credit, and especially reputable credit cards,
Yes.
they are literally your attorney on call.
Yes.
You have a problem?
Yes.
I don't argue with anyone, all right? If I go and have something going on with a contractor,
Yes.
I think you jerking me around,
Yes.
all right, it's cool, no problem.
I pull that.
I go to, the car dealership and the guy's trying to, all right, no problem, cool, I'm gonna pay you. And I drive off about my business and I
back.
make a phone call right back.
Yep.
Listen, I believe he was trying to, whatever my reason it may be, I sleep well at night.
And that's one of the reasons too, like even in traveling, I make sure that I travel with my credit cards.
Always, yeah.
Like when I'm out of the country, I use my credit cards. Especially because I've seen so many situations where, like he said a minute ago, your personal debit card, they get your information in these third world countries and they run it up. And by the time you look, you lose 5, 6K, 10K.
Yep.
I've seen one guy lose 20-something thousand.
Yep.
He was partying and they were sending him alerts to his phone. And he never, you know what I'm saying? He never caught it. He ended up losing about $20-something thousand, right? And we're in a world where scamming is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Even the people, scamming is at an all-time high.
Yeah, and guess what? Like the topic of this
Yes.
chat is, but we don't need credit, right?
But we don't need credit.
Okay, cool.
We don't need credit. So, before we get out of here today, I want you to let them know where they can find you at, where they can keep up with you at. And definitely anyone that's interested in utilizing his resources, I'm sitting here telling you as a man to my audience, I validate him. I definitely recommend him, and I know he stands on his word. And tell him Q the Boss sent you when you hit him. Say Q the Boss sent me. So therefore, promo discount.
Got you. Got you. But you can find me on TikTok, Ace1Credit_. I could change your life. Same thing with Instagram, Ace1Credit_.
Spell it out, because some people they're a little slow.
Okay, so it's Ace, ACE, the number 1, credit, _ I can change your life altogether. Contact me. I'm a life changer. I'm a beast at what I do. I'm the best in the game. I could care less who you guys follow. More popular than me, who they run with or so, I'm going to change your life.
Popularity, I have to say this, guys, popularity don't necessarily mean anything.
Nothing. I've cleaned up a lot of your celebrities, little do you know.
100%. And the scariest thing is when you meet people who have a bigger platform. I remember before we leave, I had a guy, well-known guy. Yo, bro, we went, I told you we was on FaceTime. And we was on Instagram. And I was like, yo, show them your primary. Meaning show them your house. He got offended. And then when we got off, he was like, yo, what you doing? And I was like, what you mean what I'm doing? He was like, yo, bro, why you do that? Why you put me on the spot like that?
Oh, come to find out.
He doesn't even have a house. He lives in an apartment. And I'm not dissing anyone in that space. But be mindful that this guy is online talking about owning homes and how you should have
But
assets and all of these things.
The top overview, and sorry for talking
Yeah.
as well. I have a young lady with 1 million followers, over 1 million. I did that 1.2, 1.3.
Wow.
That's came to me for what we're speaking on now, but promoting a lifestyle that she's not. She's not doing. But hey, you know.
But y'all know, like I know, I don't bring nobody that you can't where you can't backtrack and see who exactly they are. You know, I can have 1,000 guests up here every week, but then I'll be validating people I'm not sure of. Anytime I bring someone on this platform, I'm rest assured that I'm bringing you someone legit. You know, I watched even, you know, I'm not even gonna say the platform, big radio station in New York State. They brought a lot of scammers, on that platform, bro. And now the people that are on it, they look a little questionable, but in reality, they had nothing to do with the backstories behind what these people were doing, but it still affected their credibility. So therefore, you know, we don't do stuff like that.
Got you.
So anything you want to say before we get out of here today?
Just respect credit, respect your money, and educate yourself. And everybody should be more or less fine, and just get the people around you that you need around you, and you can put yourself in a great situation.
So I'm asking this question before we get out of here. But you don't need credit?
Yeah, you don't need credit, bro.
Don't let that go over your head.